We are here on the outskirts of Seattle, which when I popped out here has the second worst air on the planet, only behind the Metro Portland area. And I know that people will go and probably get a little pedantic and go, yeah, but there's this suburb or this. It's talking about the metro area. So Seattle is number 2, Portland, Oregon, number 1 in the world. So there you go. Something we're good at in the United States, forest fire smoke. On a clear day, it is technically a clear day. On a normal day, we would actually be able to see a bit of the skyline that's here. Had to stop the broadcast before because I was seeing all these error messages popping up. And so I didn't know if it was going through or not on all the channels. Anyway, that's why I stopped the broadcast earlier. So that isn't fog, this is forest fire smoke. And so this is forest fire smoke from California and Oregon, and a little bit from the north. There's a 1,000 acre forest fire that's burning. I think it's I can't remember the name of it. It's something Creek fire. That fire has kind of ballooned to 1,000 acres and is also super smoky, and so there's a little bit of that in there. What happened was we had all this outflow weather and the wind was blowing out towards the ocean. That pushed huge clouds of smoke from Oregon and southwestern Washington and a little bit of Northern California, all out in the Pacific Ocean. That was giving us our record heat. Yesterday we were 91 degrees at KSCA. KSCA is a SeaTac International Airport. That was a record high. The old record was 85. Old record in downtown was 88 if you go back even further in time. So it just smashed both of those records. People in other parts of the country might be going, early September, 91 degrees, big deal. Darn close to unprecedented for Seattle. Not impossible, it's happened a few times, but it is infrequent for it to get this hot. So what happened was we had all of this dry, hot spell, this California grade weather. Yesterday, the wind shifted. Yesterday evening, the smoke started rolling in. People started noticing that. And that's because all of that smoke that is out in the Pacific Ocean is now being pulled right into the Puget Sound area. And from Portland up kind of like in the Aberdeen area and along some of the coast out by Olympic National Park, and then inland almost to Olympia, and then up the I-5 corridor. You could eat the air with a fork, basically. AQI is Air Quality Index. It's a score that they use to go how good or bad the air is. And there are multiple sites using different sensors that measure AQI. So AQI in the Seattle area is somewhere between the low 200s and the low 300s, depending on what source you go to. No matter how you slice it, pun intended, AQIs in those kind of numbers are bad. They're really, really bad. And if I pan over here, you can see it is, it looks like it's fog. And again, that's not fog, that's smoke. And visibility is maybe a quarter of a mile that we've got, and it's going to get worse. That's the other kind of big news story here with this. The smoke is going to continue to pump in. And by Saturday morning is probably where we're going to peak, and then it'll start to get a little better. And then Sunday has the potential, kind of like Sunday evening, we have the potential for actually to be even worse than it's going to be on Saturday. And we have to kind of see how that pans out. I am not, my understanding is there was a march that's planned. The Black Indigenous Coalition was still supposed to do their march today at 5 o'clock, and I'm out. I'm tapping out. Basically, to do that march and to film it, it would require wearing a full respirator for every inch of that, because the air is seriously that chunky. And here's the thing that I don't think people understand or realize. The particles in the smoke, when you breathe them in, this PM2.5, which means that's kind of like the size of the particles, right? N95 masks are actually designed for this stuff. N95 mask will capture this stuff, does a great job for it, but good luck finding a full-blown N95 mask right now. The downside is any of these particles you breathe in They get down to the deep part of your lungs, that's it. They're cumulative. They don't go in and go out. They go in, if they embed themselves in your lungs, they're embedded. And the more you breathe in this stuff, you start doing lung damage to yourself. And it's kind of like when the air gets like this is like smoking 15 or 20 packs of cigarettes if you go outside for a couple of hours. Not packs, sorry, cigarettes. 15 to 20 cigarettes, not packs. My goodness, if you did that, you would kill you if you did that. Sorry. And again, that damage is cumulative. And the other thing is that what's insidious with lung damage is lungs are one of the organs that will kind of hide that they're not functioning well until you reach the point when you go like, wow, they're not functioning well. And by then you're in really rough shape. So it's insidious damage. You don't realize it. And you're just probably listening to yourself, Malky Ted, you sound like my dad. Yeah, I kind of am sounding like your dad. If you're like 25 and you're like, I'm young and I'm indestructible and I'm going to go do my, just at least wear a mask. That's all. It's super, super gnarly out. A couple other things. There was a Venmo that we put up on our Facebook page. So that's facebook.com/malcontent. That Venmo is up there specifically to be buying KN95 and N95 masks for the unhomed in Seattle and get them masks. The other thing that's going on and why it's really critical, especially if you're in the smoke, if you're Portland, you're Eugene, you're Salem, you're Seattle, Tacoma, Olympia, and you're listening to me, or you're in an area and it's in choking smoke like this. Well, I can't say all areas like that. Here in the Seattle area, when we had smoke like this in 2017 and 2018, they were telling people, hey, go to the mall, get in some air conditioning, you can breathe some clean air there. Go see a movie, you can go sit in the movie theater, you can breathe some clean air in there. Go to the hospital cafe, if you're really sensitive, go to the hospital cafe, grab a cup of coffee, sit in there, breathe their good filtered air for a couple of hours. They also opened up centers that people could, essentially breathing centers, so people could go in, get filtered, air-conditioned air. We can't do any of that because of COVID. So if you have neighbors, if you have relatives, if you have people you care about, you know they have breathing difficulty, if they have a heart condition, they have pulmonary disease, they're dragging an oxygen bottle around with them, they've got COPD. This is the day to pick up the phone and go, hey, how are you doing? Are you breathing okay? Is there anything I can do for you? If you are having breathing problems and your choice is, Gads, it's hot in my house, or opening your windows, keep the windows closed and the doors closed. The other thing I was reading is there's some people who live in older homes, and older homes aren't sealed as well. And so there's people like the smoke's getting into my house, I gotta find it. What people are starting to do is they're taping their windows and they're going around, say, on the doors that they don't use very often. They're taping around with blue painter's tape on those doors to kind of reinforce the seals around there. So if you already got your house closed up and you got kind of like some drafty windows or doors, that's another step that you can do to help seal things up. This isn't going away. This is going to be like this at least until Monday. And then when we say Monday, it isn't necessarily going to get like, oh, we're back to clear blue skies again. The reality is this probably isn't going to fully go away until we get rain. And I don't mean like Monday, we have a little bit of like maybe some drizzle or some light rain in the forecast. That's not going to be enough. What we need is, a couple of days of real rain to help stomp out some of these fires. Otherwise, what would happen? Let's say we get rain here in Seattle, but they don't get rain down in Oregon. Our air will clean out for a day or two, and then as soon as that wind shifts, the smoke's going to come right back up here. So we're kind of in for the long haul, absent a significant rainstorm that comes through. So, and right now there is nothing in the forecast models to kind of indicate that we're going to get like a early fall grade storm. And the other thing is we don't want to get too much rain all at once because with the hills just charred and all that plant life destroyed, Sumner grade fire, that's an area when I was looking at how steep that was when we were out there filming on Tuesday, that's a spot I look at and I get really worried about what's going to happen in our rainy season, particularly where they forecasted a La Nina season and we start getting into mudslide risks. Because another thing in Seattle in the winter months, we do get a fair number, even under normal circumstances, we get a fair number of mudslides and rock slides here from the rain. A lot of people kind of think it rains all the time here in Seattle. It's not true, actually. We go through this period, we have a thing called June gloom. It gets kind of gray and cool, but it doesn't necessarily rain. And then like July, August, September is basically dry. And then sometime in October is when we finally start getting some rain. So we're still probably 3 to 6 weeks away from the start of our rainy season. So it won't be this bad every day through the period, but we're actually going to get worse as the day progresses today. Sunday has the potential of being even worse than, say, tonight and Saturday morning. We'll get a little rain on Monday, and that is going to help. And it's still probably, air's still probably going to be pretty chewy through this entire process. It's a historic event. We were saying on the page, you know, a little bit more than a week ago, that we were looking at a potentially historic weather pattern. I was calling it, you know, not unprecedented, but extremely unusual, and now we can call it historic. These are the worst forest fires on the western side of the Cascades in Oregon's history. In Oregon saying 120 years a couple of days ago, they're now saying in history. This is the worst wildfire season in Washington history. This is the worst wildfire season in California history. And not all of this land was Forest Service. You know, Sumter Great Fire, that's not Forest Service land that burned out there. So this isn't just an issue of, oh, it's bad forest management or this. There's a whole combination of forces that happen here. And in Washington state, where over 500,000 acres have been charred in a week, a lot of those acres are actually grassland in eastern Washington, and they explode into flame and burn very, very fast. And that's where we had this infant very sadly die, and the mother and father almost are in super critical condition, according to the news at Harborview Medical Center. You can't like a grass fire can move, you know, really fast. 50, 60, it'll move as fast as the wind's blowing. If the wind's blowing 60 miles an hour, that grass fire is going to be moving 60 miles an hour. And unfortunately, that's what happened to that particular family. They got overrun by the fire out there, and just absolutely tragic story. There are multiple police agencies in Washington and Oregon and the FBI pleading with people, stop spreading rumors about Proud Boys, about Antifa, about they lit the fire, they lit that fire, they did this, they did that. I know I've read, you know, people in Graham like, oh, Antifa set the fires in Graham. Pierce County's already come out and said the fire in Graham was caused by a tree that knocked over power lines. Power lines landed on the ground in the forest, and it set the forest floor on fire because, wow, the power line was sparking. We know that this happened in California. That is the official position on the fire in Graham from Pierce County Sheriff's Department. You're just wasting resources. There are communities where the 911 dispatchers are begging for people to stop because they're getting all these BS phone calls. And what's happening is they can't handle the real emergencies, like people going, help, I am in my house, I am surrounded by fire, and I'm gonna get roasted to death if somebody doesn't come here and rescue me. Because 911 is having to deal with these BS calls because people are politicizing everything. This isn't a political issue. I don't understand what happened where our brains seem to have gotten smaller, and we just can't simply accept the fact that when you get a Haynes value, an established mathematical formula for how prone an area is to natural wildfires, when you get Haynes values of 5 or 6, when you get to 6, that's kind of like stand in a grassy field and think about fire, and your thoughts could practically set the field on fire. I said practically, not literally. That's what a Haynes index of 6 means. Power line hits the ground. Somebody throws a cigarette butt out the window. A chain on a trailer starts dragging on the asphalt and sparking. Car brakes overheat. Truck brakes overheat. I mean, there's, you know, and throws some sparks. There are a million ways that fires either, or let's have a gender reveal party, right? That's one of the worst fires in California going right now. Hello, ducky. The ducks on this beach are extremely well fed, and she is just like, hello, human. You don't have food for me. My value to a duck is directly proportionate to the amount of bread that I have. And I have no bread, so I am worthless to a duck. And you shouldn't feed bread to ducks anyway. Popcorn. Anyway, back to what I was saying. It's like we can't accept that shit naturally happens. And the other thing is we can't seem to accept that every year psychopaths, hey, I'm going to light a fire because, maybe like for instance, they had the individual, it was last year or the year before, the dude was a firefighter. And he was going around lighting forest fires because he wanted to be a firefighting hero. So no other better way to do it than let me start setting fires. There are people every year that do this. There is no political motivation to it. There are sick people in the head, regardless of what you want to do. And spreading false rumors isn't helping. There's a reporter from the Willamette Weekly. I mean, this is an Oregon publication trying to report on the news in Oregon, and he had guns put in his face. And this person is like they write for the LA Times, for the love of God. You Antifa? Holy Christ. That's how batshit crazy and paranoid people are getting. Stop. I was on a search and rescue team for 8 years. That's why I've been posting a lot about this. That's why this is personal to me. Stop. They're already up to their necks. People in EMS, and look, I'll say there's this, the police departments in this country and how they're structured and all, they're broken. And I'll be the first to say it. And the system works perfectly in the sense that the system is fucked up. But you know what? If you're a cop, you're out there saving lives, and you're keeping people out of the fire zones, and you're driving through burning neighborhoods with the PA system saying, hey, assholes, it's time to go now because we're not going to rescue your happy ass. This is a level 3 evacuation. It's time to go. That is the kind of shit cops should be doing. So thank you for doing your job. I call it as I see it. Some of you probably don't appreciate it. All cops are bastards. You know what? If you're out there saving lives today, no, you're not a bastard. You're doing your friggin' job. End of story. Firefighters, EMS, searching. When you spread this bullshit, you're putting their lives in danger. Especially if because they have to check it out. They have to go investigate it. Why would you send somebody that you claim to support into a friggin' level 3 evacuation zone just to confirm that your bullshit is a lie? You're not helping. And don't be throwing the false moral equivalency in, or what about, because that's what-ifism. That is a classic tactic of just distraction. I don't want to talk about my bad stuff today. Let's talk about the other side's bad stuff. That's not what this topic is about. It's about doing the right thing. It's not funny. It's not amusing. It's not doing anything for you. It goes both ways, because there's people saying the Proud Boys are doing it. So don't get your panties in a wad. He's ranting again. I'm ranting against any asshole that's doing it. I may think the system is racist and screwed up and broken. If you're a police officer right now, you're out in these rural areas, you're putting your life on your line, and you're doing it not knowing if your own house is burning down at the same time. Look, there's been times he hasn't given me a bone in a long time. But there have been a couple of times where I've gone, you know what? I'm going to say it. President Trump, because he earned that title, he hasn't done it in a long fucking time. You dig through some of these feeds, you're going to find where I've done that. So, to the cops that are out there that are eating smoke, who are not protecting their own families, who are not protecting their own homes, and you're legit putting your life on the line to help others, calling you out. But that doesn't excuse all the other bullshit that's going, oh, he likes. No. But you got to call it as you see it. I call it as I see it across the board. Long-term malcontents know that. Absolutely know that. Because there's people dying, right? Don't forget, this smoke might be this amazing curiosity and this haze and all this other stuff. You know what's in these people, the smoke? People's homes. That's part, if you're in a place where ash is falling, that's somebody's home. That could be somebody's pet. That could be somebody's livestock. That could be somebody in that ash. Just think about that. Not everything has to be fucking political. And this shouldn't be it. The last thing I'm going to close on something positive, which is my home state of Massachusetts. Town of Malden. Malden is outside of Boston. It is northwest of Boston. Not far. It's next to Medford. Malden. It's Malden. Probably doesn't come out right with the mask on, but it's like Malden. You say it as if you almost kind of say Nolans. You know, you could say like people in Nolans. You say like Nolans, and it's kind of like one syllable. It's not New Orleans. It's like Nolans. Again, not coming out right with the mask. Malden, Massachusetts. Right? We say Malden, Washington, and Massachusetts is kind of Malden. It's this. It's just like one syllable. Hard to explain. The town of Malden, Mass, right next to Medford. If you're not from there, you would look on a map and go, oh, that's Medford. No, it's Medford. Lighten up, Washington. You got Squim. That's like Sequim. And good luck finding Leicester on a map. I dare you to find Leicester on a map of Massachusetts the way that I presented. Just pronounced it if you're not familiar. You'll never find it. Anyway. Town of Malden, Massachusetts, is reaching out to the town of Malden, Washington. Malden, Washington is a small town of about 300 people, and the town has basically been obliterated. 80% of the homes are burned. All of the city infrastructure is burned. The town is utterly obliterated. And the town, which used to be, I think, attached to like, I can't remember if it's the timber industry or the mining industry. I mean, it used to be a town that its economy is based on natural resources, and all of that left a long time ago. So it's one of these dying towns. And the town was starting to turn a corner. They were reinventing themselves. And now the town is just completely destroyed. They're having to restart from with nothing. So the town of Malden, Massachusetts is actually doing a fundraiser for the town of Malden, Washington. And the city itself is doing it. It's not like some person in Malden. We've linked to that on our page on Facebook. We also link to it on Twitter. And what I'm saying is, because I've had people asking me, and I know people have been asking other people in the Malcontent Tango team, hey, is there a GoFundMe? Is there something you're going to do? And it's like, I explained this on the Facebook page. There are so many GoFundMes, and to then just kind of go, well, let me pick this one. It just feels a little icky because it's like, which one's the most deserving? And then the other thing is, we have to do this vetting process, right? Is that a legitimate GoFundMe? Where's the money going to go? And it just started feeling like an impossible task. So here's the things I love about this. I love the connection back to my roots back in Massachusetts. That's number one. I love that it supports my adopted state of Washington, number two. The third thing that I love is that because it is being done by the town, I know where the money's going. The money's going to go to Malden, Washington. This isn't somebody who set up a GoFundMe that then they're going to go slide that money in their pocket. That's the next part of this that I love. And then the last thing is that this money is going to go to broad community support. And ultimately, the leadership in Malden, Washington is going to decide where that money best goes. So it doesn't single out an individual or a business or an individual. We know it's vetted. We know where the money's going to go. Hello there, ducky. I do not have bread. It's so funny. They walk up to you like dogs. Do you have bread? No, I have no bread. And bread's bad for you anyway. And I don't have popcorn. Or peas. That's another one I read you could feed you, is peas. So you can go to our Twitter, you go to our Facebook page, you can link to that and you can support them. So I'm giving you three places you can do support two different things. You can support the homeless with N95 masks because they have no center and no place to go to get out of the smoke. Like, seriously. Totally like a dog here. Hello there, duck. And now it's like, you have no bread. So go away. You can support the unhomed. That's on our Facebook page. Or you can support the community of Malden, Washington by working through the fundraiser that has been set up by Malden, Massachusetts, which I just love and I think is cool. So wear a flipping mask. If you want long-term lung damage, don't wear a mask. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, right? It's like, government's telling me I got to wear a mask because of COVID and smoke. Screw you. Look, if that's where your head's at, you can't fix stupid. Wear a flipping mask. Keep your windows rolled up in your house. We have a story that we've linked to that we wrote last year about getting ready for summer smoke season. That story is super applicable today. Here's the bad news. If you read that story, you're like, oh, okay, I want to set up that room fan with an air filter. Yeah, good luck finding a room fan, and good luck finding a furnace filter at this point. Basically, everything is sold out and wiped out. And I've talked to some people on air purifiers before I went on the air. I was going to say if I could do a shout out to anybody, go, hey, these people got it. Like, good luck finding air purifiers locally. That isn't to say that some store might have 2 or 3 on a shelf buried somewhere. I didn't like call inventory everywhere. I did check with a few people though that I know sell this stuff, and they're all like, dude, I was wiped out yesterday. So if you kind of waited for that stuff, there you go. Tonight will get worse. It's just going to get worse. And like, you know, and this is what we had told everybody in the forecast model yesterday. We'll probably hit basement, meaning as bad as it'll get, late tonight or in the morning tomorrow. May get a little bit of relief in the overnight. The timing's a little weird. It's just typically when we get in a weather pattern, we have kind of this marine flow. The wind kind of dies down when the sun goes down. That'll stop pumping the smoke in. So it all kind of depends on when that wind goes slack. And then there's some other weather factors that are involved there, which I'm going to spare you on how bad it could get. Saturday will be a little better. Think of Saturday by midday kind of being like late this morning today, and Sunday could be a lot worse. Like Sunday, looking at it right now, Sunday is kind of yikes. We could kind of see numbers like Portland was seeing yesterday. Maybe not quite that bad, but pretty bad. So if you're just tuning in, we're on the outskirts of Seattle. Normally what we'd be looking at is this crystal clear blue lake and beautiful trees, and we have about a quarter mile of visibility. Because depending on which websites you go to, AQI in the area is somewhere between 210 to 310, which is like somewhere between really bad and horrific. AQI score goes to 500. After 500, you're off the chart. I was reading yesterday, Cottage Lake, Oregon had an AQI of 835, which is just mind-melting to me. I mean, that's like air you could literally chew. So be good to each other, malcontents. Stop with the rumor spreading. It's not helping. Support Malden, Washington. Support the unhomed. Malcontents.